What's up, everybody? I hope that you can hear me. I'm going to wait for some people to get in here because I just did this real fast. I just want to show everybody and explain to everybody what happened this morning in the Diddy verdict, because I see a lot of bad information out there already. We got 8 people in here so far. Guys, just let me know if you can hear me, because you see I got the federal sentencing. Yeah, you're first, Barbara. Good to see you. What's up, Frog? What's going on? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of bad information already going out about what happened with this Diddy verdict. And okay, cool, you can hear me. And I just want to get everything straight and let you guys know what's going on. What's up, Doogie? What's going on, Honeybee? David, what's going on? So basically, you remember, as we've talked on here a little bit about this case, if you remember, I was saying how these other counts were just window dressing on the whole, on the whole case. The main thing was the sex trafficking and obviously the RICO. So you have people out there now. I actually went and made a comment on that Chatting with Stacks. He said Diddy was convicted of sex trafficking, which no, he was not. He was actually convicted of counts 3 and 5, if I'm not mistaken. Give me 1 second so I can look this up. I don't want to mislead anyway. Give me 1 second. Okay. Where am I at? Put my post. Okay, he was found guilty on counts 3 and 5, which is transportation to engage in prostitution, which basically is what, if you guys have heard when they're talking about that controversial thing, the Mann Act or whatever they're talking about, that's what that is. Yeah, you're correct, Barbara. So what I did was I looked up the Mann Act and, I put it up to the federal sentencing guidelines, because you're still going to hear 10 years. He faces up to 10 years on each count. Look, that's just the maximum. Yeah, Blue, he got off easy, but truthfully, you cannot, like I said in the beginning, you cannot be in a conspiracy by yourself. That's where the government messed up. I don't even know how they did that. I was expecting to see co-defendants come up there who were unindicted or who took cooperation deals against him, because you cannot be in a conspiracy by yourself, by law. Okay, with that being said, yeah, Barbara, that's why we got, if you guys see up here, the federal sentencing guidelines, what I want you guys to do is on the left-hand column, you see the numbers 1 through 43. That's called your base offense level. Now, his base offense level for this crime, what's going on, Ron? Good to see you. His base offense level for this crime is only a 14. Okay, so go up here to 14. And then you go, he has no record. So he would be criminal history category 1. That's your criminal history, 1 through 6. Okay, it only goes up to 6. He's criminal history 1. So as you see right there, his guideline range, what's going on, Joey? I'll explain it to you. His guideline range, which is how the feds sentence people, his guideline range is 15 months to 21 months. Now, usually, and what's been happening lately is a lot of times they go under the recommended guideline range. But in this case, it's so small, I can see the 15 months most likely is what he'll get. Okay, now he's been locked up, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months. Let me look this up real quick so we can figure this out. Most likely, this is pretty much time served because he's already eligible for a halfway house. What day did Diddy get put into custody? Okay, he was taken into custody in September 2024. So you figure 10 months ago. If he gets the 15 months, he's already got time served, basically. So now later on today, his defense attorneys already put before the judge, for him to be released or whatever, because he was not convicted of the harsher crimes that he was charged with. So basically, Diddy's going to walk. Yeah, so he's got eight months in. Yeah, something like that, 8-9 months. Let me see. It's got September, October. He's got 10 months, actually. It's actually 10 months. So he's going to it's going to be time served if he gets to 15 months. Like I said, he's already eligible for home detention, halfway house, all that kind of stuff. As you guys seen, you got guys sitting here getting 3 years in a halfway house, stuff like that. So the federal system has changed. What's going on, Ingram? Denmark in the house. Shout out to Denmark. So basically, that's what it's going to be. We discussed it on here plenty of times. You can't be in a RICO by yourself. You cannot be in a conspiracy by yourself. They did not bring the correct case. They just jumped the gun. He won't get nowhere near 5 years. Barbara Warren, if you look up on the screen, that's the federal sentencing guidelines. Go up there on your left-hand on the column on the left. That's the offense level, number 1 through 43. His offense level is a 14, and his criminal history, he has none, so it's a category 1. So it's 15 to 21 months. The most you will see him get would be 21 months. That's it. He's not going to get nowhere near 10 years. He's not going to get nowhere near 5 years. The worst that he will get will be 21 months. And usually they give the lower end. Now, there's also what he was convicted of is called the Mann Act or whatever. And that's a controversial law and stuff that they say was used against black people or something like that. So it's done. I mean, I could see him getting less, but it's basically time served. Basically, Diddy beat the case. Usually they put that window dressing on there just to make what it does is it pumps up the actual real charge, because believe me, they had their fingers crossed. Now, I think I made a post yesterday, or I said something yesterday that I knew on the counts. Okay, there was the on the counts. It was 1 through 5. Now they were still deciding on count number 1, which is the actual RICO conspiracy. Now 2 through 4 they already decided on. I had said yesterday they had to be split on them. The reason why I said that is because if they were guilty on all of them, then the RICO would be really easy to find him guilty. And if he had been innocent on all of them, it would have been real easy to find him not guilty of the RICO. That's how I knew that it was split. But you say 60? Nah, Snake. Like I'm telling you, the worst he's going to get is 21 months, and I don't got that. Well, good to see you, though, Snake. That's the guidelines right there. It's looking you right in the face. It's not. He's going to get nowhere near 60 months, Snake. Nowhere near it. They would appeal that so fast, because how are you going to sentence that man 3 years over his guideline range? You have to have aggravating circumstances, and there is none. There is none. Truthfully, he can argue that he should get less than the guidelines because of everything that he was charged with, and they didn't bring the case. They just didn't. Hey, Cluckers, good to see you. Diddy's lucky. I'm not going to say he's lucky because he's still, he's still exposed as a scumbag, stuff like that. But it's a victory for him. You know what I mean? Believe me, he's feeling really good right now. Good to see you, April. What'd you say? Oh yeah, when you sue Ciroc and all that stuff, more of a humiliation. Yeah, there's rumors about that. There's rumors about that, but yeah, Snake. It was a very weak case. They jumped the gun. You cannot ask any of us who have ever been in conspiracies and RICOs. You cannot be in these things by yourself, and that's what they did. That's what the government did. I don't even see how they legally did that. I don't even see how they legally did that. But in the end, you see what happened. This was just obviously he's a freak. He's a woman beater or whatever. You know, they didn't have the best witnesses. They didn't have the best witnesses. You cannot just listen. And this goes on a lot in society nowadays. Look, and this goes out to younger women and you know, guys who are, you know, having sex with all these younger women and stuff. Look, you can't just go around basically prostituting yourself, and then when it's time for somebody else to come in and your day's over, you're washed up basically. Now you want to sue, now you want to do this, and that's just what that case was. Yeah, but Barbara, he's not going to get nowhere near 5 years. 21 months top. 21 months. Yeah, there's no way. You can't have a RICO. That's the thing. Like I said in the beginning, I thought truthfully that what would happen was you were going to see a whole bunch of his staff come in there and testify against him, and I'm not talking about victims. I'm not talking about as victims. I'm talking about as co-conspirators, because you need co-conspirators in a RICO. You need co-conspirators in a conspiracy. But where the government did, it looks like they didn't charge nobody but him. They didn't charge nobody but him. Maybe because of all their interviews, nobody said that. Do I think he's going to be released today? I think he's got a damn good chance. Got a damn good chance. Would you say, Alex, as long as you have money and power, you can do whatever you want? I kind of agree with that, but in this case, I kind of disagree. What's up, Darren? He actually got screwed over. He actually got screwed over because if you look at the case, he wasn't guilty of what they were trying to say. These women weren't victims. They were part of it. They were sitting here texting them, yeah, we want to come to the free calls. We miss them. How come you're not using me no more in the free calls? How come I can't come anymore? So the thing about the money and power was at least he had the lawyers and the money for the lawyers to advise him and to put on a good case, you know, to put on a defense. Because if he was a regular guy, he would have had some appointed attorney, and most likely he would have pled guilty to 15 and a half years. Think about that. They offered him 15 and a half years a couple months ago. That's what they offered him on a plea. That's what they offered him. Yeah, you need two or more, and one of them cannot be a cop. You know, you can't be like an undercover cop in yourself because there's no way it can exist. And yeah, Snake, you're right. If you got the money, you could take on the government. But truthfully, he was not guilty. He just wasn't. I mean, look, he's a scumbag and all that. Okay, so you think that they're going to let him out today too? I don't know if they'll let him out today. I think he's got a good shot, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? You never know. But he's got the lawyers. Most likely he'll be out today on home detention. And that's where he'll remain. That's where he will remain because his sentence, like I said, the worst he'll get is 21 months. That's it. And it's not going to be consecutive sentences or nothing like that. Yeah, Doogie, you hit the nail on the head. It's nothing to do with the power. The government got too excited, and they brought a bad case. The guy didn't do it. The guy didn't do it. It wasn't a RICO. It was not this big conspiracy and stuff like that. They're a bunch of freaks. You know what I mean? Imagine some of these goofballs on here, how long they should be locked up for the freaky shit that they do and say and stuff. You know what I mean? Clarkers, you said he's going to go back to he'll be a free man, go back to those free calls with his baby oil. I doubt that. I think he'll still do his freak offs though. Listen. That's another thing. A person's sexual preference doesn't change. Okay, whatever turns a person on is what's going to turn a person on. That's why you have child molesters. They don't want to be child molesters. They just are. That's why you have uh, rapists that cannot control themselves. You see on here a lot of times on YouTube, even when I challenge some of these people to not talk about sexual degeneracy and tell them that they're going to, all they would have to do is not talk about it and make me look stupid, but they still talk about it. That's because they can't help themselves. Like if you ever notice when I'm talking and I'm making fun of like a Lee Cole and some of these guys and the Rippers and stuff, remember how I always be like, look, they're getting worked up. They're getting worked up. That's what I mean. So he's going to be back to whatever sex he was involved in. Now he's not going to do it like he did. Yeah, Snake, the charges are definitely overinflated. Of course, they were phony. It's not even overinflated. They were just phony. It wasn't a RICO. It wasn't a conspiracy. It was just some goofy shit. Kevin's got a good point here. He's 50 years old, has 0 previous convictions. He's walking time served. I agree with that. I believe he's going to get the worst. Look, the worst he would get is 21 months. I believe he's going to get the 15 months, if not a little bit less. And then, he might have to do a little bit of time on the box or something like that, a couple months, but that's it. You said Jim Terry should get life. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yes. Clucker said he's a swinger and he loves it. Yeah, that's what he likes to do. And that's all it was a bunch of swinger parties and stuff like that. Now, in the beginning, you had all the people coming out. You had all these people saying about underage kids, Justin Bieber's, people like that. That never surfaced. That was never part of this. That is just propaganda and, people just listening to the media and stuff. People just saying anything. At the end of the day, you see what happened. And that's just the law. You have to apply the law. And the jury did. You're sticking with 4 years, 2 months prediction, Barbara? All right. Telling you. I've been through this system. I know what time it is. Yeah, right back to some idiot let him piss in their mouth. Yeah, of course. All right, Dave, you said it sounds like witness intimidation may have worked. Now you look at it. There really wasn't any co-defendants really enough for Rico. He's a weirdo and his music sucked anyway. Yeah. Now, his music was all right, I think. But, he's a weirdo. I agree with that. Yeah, there was no Rico. You need some type of co-defendants. Now, do we know if it was witness intimidation? Or also, you got to understand, Diddy's very rich. Diddy is very rich. So people will be less likely to flip on him, if anything. But also, you got to remember, from all the evidence that came out, there really was not. This wasn't a criminal case, man. It really wasn't. Then everybody belongs in prison. You know what I mean? Anybody who has sex. You know what I'm saying? He didn't break no laws having sex. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't like, they were just a bunch of freaks and a bunch of whores that, these women came. Now they had all these text messages on. Look, here's what happened. They got washed up. You've seen it in the text messages. Why can't I come to the freak offs anymore? Stuff like that. They got different women and stuff. So there's where the, that part comes in. Could you imagine how much money was being, passed around? Drugs. These people are on drugs, guys. These people are drug addicts too. Remember that. You don't think he'll get out today, Skeets? There's a chance they'll hold him. You said he fled once already. He never fled, though. He never fled. He never had a warrant. He actually came to New York and to face the shit. At that time where they said he was leaving the United States or whatever, there was no warrant out for him. So you can't say he's fleeing when he's not wanted. But there's a chance he'll get out today, and it's a damn good chance. He's not facing that much time. Yeah, Doogie. I mean, it's not that. Look, it's not that I know all this law stuff or whatever. It's just that I know what a conspiracy is. I know conspiracy law because I've been convicted of drug conspiracies. That's all I've been convicted of. And anyway, I gotta send this text back real quick. So I know the conspiracy law, and I also, that's why I'm talking about the sentencing. I know the federal sentencing guidelines. You know what I mean? I know how they sentence you and everything like that. I definitely know that. So, you know, and I don't jump out there, and I'm not going to sit here. You know, a lot of these people who comment on these things, true crime and everything like that, they want to sound smart, and they want to sound like this, and they want to act like they know about the feds. They want to act like that, but they really don't. There's nothing that can give you any better knowledge than actual life experience. And, you know, I fought the feds. I know. Just like on my first conspiracy, they charged me for over 50 kilos of cocaine. I actually beat that, but I still wound up with 12 years for 1.5 kilos. Is J-Lo off the hook? She was never on the hook, Barbara. She was never on the hook. So with the bail situation, they could still hold him today. They might. He's got a good chance of getting out. If I had to bet, I'd say he's getting out today on some type of electronic monitor. Remember, I told you guys the sex trafficking was the serious charge. That's what carried the 15-year mandatory minimum. Now, when they're saying 10 years on these charges, remember, those are maximum charges. See, with the sex trafficking, it's 15 to life. These charges are 0 to 10, if you understand what I'm saying. And like I said, if you look right here on the guideline sheet, he's a level 14, category 1, 15 to 21 months. Yeah, Dave, the RICO was totally weak. I mean, because you don't got nobody in it with you. Oh, yeah, Pumpkin. You know something? You're right about the superseding part, because I was thinking something was coming down the pipeline also. Because when they indicted him and I seen how weak it was, I was like, they're not going to do this on this weak-ass case. There's no way. Especially, that was the Southern District of New York, guys. Do you know how many big cases they take? This is a black eye for them. This is a very bad look for them, guys. Very bad. You know what I mean? It's very bad. It's totally fucked up. They jumped the gun. Now, with the domestic violence stuff, that's not a federal case. And also, you got to remember, you'll have people out here saying, well, he should have been charged with that. You got to remember that video was old. It was past the statute of limitations. And even if it was that same day, domestic violence, and this is messed up. This is what is screwed up about our system. Domestic violence, he has no convictions or nothing. He has no record of. So he could have got convicted of domestic violence in the state, and all he would get was classes or something like that. That'd be the same going for myself. Even though I got a record, I've never been in trouble for domestic violence. So if I got in trouble today for domestic violence, I wouldn't even go to prison. I wouldn't even go to jail. I'd go to jail for a day. I'd get out, and there'd be some type of classes and stuff. That's why you see so many women that have become victims, and they wind up getting unalived by this stupid ass system. And that's sickening. You know what I mean? That is sickening. They were running off of that tape. They were figuring that the human element would come in and people would just see that video. But the jury was instructed well because he had good lawyers who made sure the jury was instructed well. Skeets, you said they didn't have the RICO charges against him. He was overcharged from the beginning. They tried, but knew it wasn't getting through. You're correct. You're correct. Yeah, a lot of people were looking at J-Lo, Barbara. A lot of people were saying Justin Bieber, Odell. I mean, they're going to do that. You know what I mean? But it's just like on here. Guys, if you guys can learn anything, look on here. If something happens on here, everybody could watch it. Everybody could witness it. And if it's 10 of us that see it, all 10 of us are going to have a different story. And I'm going to be right. I'm just joking. But listen to what I'm saying. That's just the truth. Just the same thing in life. Same thing in life. Yeah. Yeah, James, I agree with you. Sex trafficking for using prostitutes is ridiculous. Government is out of control. Now, he is, though, I guess he is now a convicted sex offender. He's definitely a convicted sex offender now because those are sex crimes. Just like if you go to get a prostitute, say I'm picking up a prostitute and, on the corners, how they used to do it or whatever, or call up, whatever, them sites, whatever. And I show up and I offer money and it winds up being an undercover cop. And I go to court and I get probation or something for that. I would still be a convicted sex offender because that's a sex offense. There's so many of them. Pissing outside is a sex offense. If you get caught like pissing outside, that could be a sex offense. In college, you learn the system, but reality is different. Although I've never done time working in the state system versus books, huge difference, especially in the Fed system. Yeah. Okay, so you worked in the system. So yeah, there you go, Dave. So you already know. Experience is the main thing. Experience is the main thing. Yeah, Travis, I can agree with this. You were waiting for more to come, but they saw the name and got too excited. But now let us not jump the gun either. There might not have been nothing else there, because believe me, they fucking listen. The government, they go through everything. They question everybody. They will, and especially on a person like him. So I'm sure that they did a whole lot of investigating, but this is all they could come up with. Yeah, Dave. Exactly. Domestic violence, usually probation, classes, stuff like that, unless a person does it a bunch of times and stuff. And then they really don't get no time. Just like with the PDF files. Everybody always says, oh, they get all this time. No, they don't. No, they don't. The only time they ever really get prosecuted is if it's somebody outside of their family. Honestly, a lot of times with that family stuff and all, they don't even get prosecuted. They just get other shit done to them, whatever. But it's a bad system. Our system doesn't protect women and it doesn't protect children. Now, in this case right here with Diddy, I'm not saying that them women were victims either, because they weren't. I'm sorry, they weren't. They got all kind of money. They were drug addicts. They got all kind of drugs. They wanted to be there. They wanted to do that. They were not victims. I'm sorry. And it came out in court. Oh, okay, Bendover. Yeah, Diddy got convicted of counts 3 and 5, which is the Mann Act, just like some getting a prostitute type thing. The worst he'll get on a federal sentencing guideline charts, like I got up there. He's offense level 14. Obviously, he doesn't have a record, so he's category 1, 15 to 21 months, which would equal about time served. He could be home today. You know what, Doogie? You make a good point, and I've said that on here before. Listen to what Doogie says. Being Scottish, he thinks as an American citizen, our laws, we all commit 10 crimes a day. And I'll say federal crimes. And he's right. I remember one time I told the audience on here, they were saying something about felons and this and that. I said, listen, every one of us is a felon. Just some are not convicted. Because we all commit felonies every day. There's so many laws, especially federal law, because it's all double talk. And Punk and Escobar, you were right about him being a slimy dude, a treacherous guy. Yes, he's a gangster. People will laugh and when I say that stuff because of the baby oil on a freak. He's a gangster. Diddy has bodies. Diddy's got all kind of shit going on. Diddy is a gangster. Believe that. He is a treacherous dude. Frankie the Fixer said, Diddy can let his freak flag fly now. Yes, he can. His family was very happy leaving court. What do you say, Frog? Do I think Diddy will walk a straight line now if he gets time served, or will he continue to be a dirtbag on the DL? Dirtbag on the DL because, like I said, his sexual preferences are his sexual preferences. So he's going to be a weirdo, and he's just going to be who he is. You know what I mean? This might make him even more cocky, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to do the exact way he did. Exactly. All that money. Do you know how much money they spent prosecuting him? Just to give you an example, my big case, which I've never had a big case, but I'll say my biggest case, I was scheduled for trial for 8 days. 8 days. And honestly, my trial, if I went, would not have taken 8 days. It would have been done in like three or four, truthfully, maybe 5. And this is back in 2004. So that would have cost, I think it was close to $1 million. It was going to cost the government just for mine. So imagine this, all the shit they went through. Imagine how much money that cost that they wasted. You think well, Barbara, where were the victims? Why didn't the women come up who were victims? Because the women who came up and testified were not victims. They were just tricks. That's what we call tricks. You know what I mean? That's it. They're just, you know what I mean? They're turning tricks, basically. That's all they're doing. They were freaks too. They were enjoying the sex. They were enjoying the drugs. They were begging to come to the place. And when he would get rid of them and not talk to them, they would text them and say, well, can't I come to the freak? So, I mean, you can't really say they're victims. Lucky Luciano got 50 years for violation of Mann Act in the 40s. When you think about that, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that about Lucky Luciano. But yeah, dude, you're right. Once a freak, always a freak. He's not going to change his ways. And yep, the tax money paid for that. Would you say, Joe? Joe, you said the whole trial was hyped. Of course, you're right about that, and you knew it. And you knew it'd get very little time, and that's what's happening here. Now you're going to hear a bunch of hoopla and stuff like that. But guys, your real information comes from me. Everybody knows that. I'm never wrong about these kind of things because I actually know what I'm talking about. And I actually, do a little bit of research. But that's how they sentence you in the feds right there. That federal guideline sheet. Like you see, it only goes up to 43. And at 43, it's all life. You said, Travis, you said he'll calm down for a minute, slowly get back into the wild shit. Yeah, he might become Muslim or something. He might be on his Dean. You might see him with a kufi on, become a family man now. All right, Frog, you got another question? Let me see. Do I think he will go after everyone that badmouthed him like his ex-bodyguard? No, not at all. Not at all. I don't think so. Look, he's rich. He don't give a fuck. Anything now, it would be him being embarrassed by his sex life, which was already out there. Everybody knew that he was, how he was. Oh, Stacy, what's up? Good to see you. Hope you're having a great day too. Yeah, we just jumped on today early for this because of the Diddy verdict. I seen a lot of shit out there that people are going to start. You know how all these people think they know what they're talking about, and they're going to start with the bullshit. I seen one when the one dude said that he got convicted of sex trafficking. Hang on for a second. Sal Store Paciris, you heard Jim and Mark Terrier signing up to be the permanent prostitution player in all future Diddy freak-offs. They'll have to show their face. Triple X, good to see you. And yeah, you're right. Dave was absolutely right. State and feds are like night and day. They're really different. But in this situation, even though it was the feds, you just can't do that to people. Come with the bullshit. Would you say, Doogie? Total own goal by the government. Well done, Eric. I changed your mind months ago. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, in the beginning, guys, when he first got arrested and they were doing all that crazy raiding and all that shit, like over a year ago, when they started raiding, I was like, oh man, because it's the feds and it was the Southern District of New York. I was like, he's fucked. I said, this is going to be R. Kelly on steroids. And this is before they started bringing the case. Then when they brought the case, I was like, hold up. Like somebody was mentioning, I think it might have been Dave. I was like, where's the superseding indictment? It's got to be a superseding indictment. Then I thought, well, maybe all of his co-conspirators took cooperation agreements. So you're going to see a few of them come up there. But none of that happened. So they didn't do it. No, Diddy doesn't have a record. And let me explain another thing, how the feds work. Just like myself, I've done 2 federal sentences, okay? On my first federal sentence, now be with me very slowly. This is going to confuse you. On my first federal sentence, my record was worse than my second federal sentence. Doesn't make sense at all. How could that be? Obviously, on my second federal sentence, my record should be worse. But after 10 years on any 2-point offense, that you're out of prison or anything like that, and a 2-point offense means you did less than a year in jail or carry less than something like that, probation or something. After 10 years, that goes away and can't be held against you. After 15 years, that you're out of prison on it, any 3-point offense goes against you. So my first federal sentence, I was a criminal history category 5, truthfully. In my second federal sentence, I was a criminal history category 3, which is less. And they actually messed up on that. I should have been a category 2 because they had me as being convicted of a DUI, which I was not convicted of. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So no, he does not have a record. When he gets sentenced, he's going to be criminal history category 1. Trust me on that. Do you say he's already dating Bill Cosby? So yeah, he doesn't have nothing. Yeah, Triple X. If you look up there, that's what it said. Go look, like on the guideline sheet that's up there. He's in the long column, the offense level column, the left-hand column. He is criminal history. Base offense level will be 14. His criminal history is a category 1, so it's 15 to 21 months. 21 months is the worst. They don't really ever do that. Actually, my last time, what did they do to me? I was 37 to 46 months. That was my guideline range, and they gave me 42 months, which was the middle in the middle of it. But that's actually unheard of. Usually they give the low end. So if he gets anything more than 15 months, I don't see it. No, Triple X isn't Mr. X. What the hell are you talking about, Sal? Do I think he's an informant? Not on this case, no. Do I think he has been? Yeah. Yeah, I do. But that doesn't that bears no difference on that. I don't want to say I think he's like a working federal. Do I think that he's given the feds information before? I don't believe he's got like a handler type deal. Like I don't believe he's like working, like they're sending him out. But I do believe he's given information before, like on Suge Knight and certain things like that. He's been around too many bodies. Anytime you see a person, and this goes for all you guys on the streets, anybody who's still in the street, anytime you see that guy, and everybody knows who I'm talking about because that guy is everywhere. He's in every continent, everything, every neighborhood. You see that guy, he's always breaking the law. He's always selling drugs. He's always getting money. He's always doing this. He's always doing that. He's always involved in everything. Murders, things like that happen around them, all kind of stuff. Everybody around him gets locked up. He never gets locked up. And everybody around him dies and stuff like that. That is Diddy right there. That's him. Always beware of that guy because you just can't live life like that and not go to prison or get killed yourself. He's that guy. A bunch of bodies around him, a bunch of, crimes being around. He's been involved for a long time. So, yeah, I do believe that the Diddler has worked with the feds before. So what would he get if he committed a crime today? That's what we're talking about. He'd be category 1. I'm talking about he doesn't have a record. Just like he does not have a record. It's basically he's walking in there, first-time offender, basically. First-time offender is what he is. And I don't even know if he's ain't got any convictions anyway. Sal, you said you'd imagine the co-conspirators have their testimony and trade for protection. I just don't think that nobody flipped on them, man. Well, listen, maybe they did, but listen, there's not a case. he didn't do what they said. You know, if anybody messed this up, the government messed it up. They overcharged him. That's just the problem right there. And this happens every day, guys. This happens every day to us. I'm talking about just regular people get charged by the feds with massive amounts of drugs, massive amounts of this that they never find, stuff like that, and then wind up, we don't have the money to fight, so we got to take a plea deal to 10 years, shit like that, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years sometimes. And this happens to the common person every day. Now, you just seen it play out against somebody who's really got money, and he could prove they were bullshit. Just a couple months ago, they offered him 15 years, 6 months, which a poor person's lawyer would have told them to take it because they don't got the resources to fight. It happens all the time. Yeah, Snake, he's definitely given information before. I do know that about it. I would assume that about Diddy, you know. But that when you get at the top of all this stuff, they all do. El Broco, EBT 305. El Ripper snitched too. So he said about Ripper posted a short where he picks up on women, shows he got well and embarrassed. Yeah, I don't know. Ripper's worse than Diddy. But yeah, they got to make their quote. I just think they made asses out of themselves, Sal. I think they made total asses out of themselves. There was no RICO. It wasn't a sex trafficking ring. It was a swingers parties. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was swinger parties. He's a freak, definitely. What about my pending attempted kidnapping, second degree assault with weapon, flag, and attempted aggravated burglary charges in Baltimore? I don't know. I don't know about that. I haven't heard nothing about that. Wouldn't know nothing about that. That's a whole lot of stuff. It would seem like that would be like kind of the case they brought against Diddy. But anyway, so anyway, like you see, that would be a bullshit case, you know. But anyway, so listen, you just seen this play out. You've seen the federal government play out. You've seen them overplay their hand, and that just is what it is. I don't know, Doogie. That's that Wolf guy. He's a little off. I don't know what he's talking about. But anyway, there's no such thing as that. What's up, Damien? Good to see you. Right there, Damien, if you look on the thing, that's the federal sentencing guidelines. He's actually he's criminal history 1, which is the categories that go across. The one that goes up and down, the column up and down. He's level 14. So he's going to be facing 15 to 21 months. Usually they give you the low end. So around 15 months, which would mean basically time served. Basically time served. They didn't listen. They didn't bring the case, man. They didn't do it. And like I said, they do that every day. They do this to people every day that don't got the money to fight them. Just so happened Diddy had the money to fight. Yeah, but they weren't able to do it. I mean, they didn't bring the case. Yes, the feds took it out. And Damien, look who it was. The Southern District of New York. They are the top prosecutors in the United States of America. For them, that's why I didn't think in the beginning, I thought that he was toast. I thought they were going to come with some shit that they had. But listen, there was nothing there. He's just a freak and a weirdo. And he beats up the women, beat up that girl. Yeah, he's a scumbag. Diddy's a scumbag. But guys, anybody who's a billionaire is a scumbag. Yeah, their case was totally weak, bro. Totally weak. It's like, look, you've been around, Damien. You've been around the block. Have you ever seen somebody be in a conspiracy by themselves? Have you ever seen somebody be in a RICO by themselves? It's impossible. It's actually against the law. If you look up conspiracy law, you cannot be in a conspiracy by yourself. Conspiracy law, let me pull it up for you guys. It's the actual law. That's why with the Joe Messina entrapping Dom Scali and Vinny Gorgeous and all that, that's why Vinny Gorgeous has a good chance of getting out if he could get back into court. Same type of situation with the conspiracy law. What is the conspiracy law? All right, I'm going to read this off real quick. In law, a conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime or to achieve a legal goal through illegal means. It's essentially a partnership in wrongdoing where the agreement itself is a crime, even if the intended crime isn't ultimately carried out. So the key elements of it is the agreement. The core conspiracy is agreement between two or more people to commit a crime, not one person, two or more. It's that simple. And then they get into the overt acts, the intent, and stuff like that. But by law, he should have never been charged with the RICO conspiracy. What's going on, Carlos? Good to see you. So, I mean, that's the law. You can Google it. Just Google conspiracy law, and it'll tell you that. You know? Matter of fact, let me see. Let me see something real quick. One second, guys. I hate having dead air. That's one of the best hosts. Let me just go there. What is the conspiracy law? Here we go. Put that up there. Get over here. I'm going to share the screen real quick, guys, so we look at it together. Here you go, guys. It's right here. And you see how they highlight this part. It's an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime or to achieve a legal goal through illegal means. It's essentially a partnership in wrongdoing where the agreement itself is a crime, even if the intended crime isn't carried out. Now, here you'll see the elements. And I'm going to get into something, guys, and it's going to shock you guys. And it's going to go back to what you just read. Because remember, I've only been convicted of conspiracy. Okay? The agreement. This is the key elements. The agreement. That's the main thing. It's the agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. And remember, one of these people cannot be an undercover cop or something. Here's examples. Two or more people agreeing to rob a bank. One of them buys ski masks to conceal their identities. Group of people conspiring to set a building on fire. Agreement to commit fraud, even fraud scheme is not fully executed. All right, now, I want to go back up to the top. It is even if the intended crime, if you see down here, even if the intended crime isn't ultimately carried out, so maybe no crime was ever even committed, but you could still be convicted of conspiracy, but you cannot be by yourself. Now, give me 1 second, Sal. I'm going to get to your question. I'm going to keep that up there. Now, I want to use myself for example. If you see in that last line, it says even if the crime's not carried out. They had a court case in 2019 about drug conspiracies, where drug conspiracies are no longer controlled substance offenses. They don't count as that in the feds. And whatever your state considers a conspiracy is whatever the conviction is. So technically, I'm not even a convicted felon. Even though I've done 21 and a half years for drug conspiracy, I'm not a convicted felon. Because any conspiracy in the state of Maryland, I don't care if it's conspiracy to kill somebody, it is a misdemeanor. All conspiracies are in Maryland. So that's what they got to revert back to. Now, I'm not stupid enough to try to go buy a gun or something like that. Then they could switch it around because everything's double talk. But by technicality, I'm not even a convicted felon. Our Sal said, did he have co-conspirators, but they didn't testify? Christine Karam, Diddy's chief of staff, was not charged in indictment, but the government has identified her and staff as co-conspirators. Exactly, but you got it. Listen, that's what they're unindicted co-conspirators. You can, and that's what they're calling them. They have to come in and testify. You could say, yeah, he did this. You cannot do it by yourself. They're just unindicted co-conspirators. Somebody's got to be indicted with you. In other words, somebody needs to be charged with at least a criminal complaint against them. And then that way they could decide to cooperate before they're indicted, stuff like that. That's where they dropped the ball. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's not even about, there was no case, dude. He's just a freak. It's not like, they did their best to prove some bullshit, but it wasn't. It was bullshit. What'd you say, Carlos? A lot of agent provocateurs out there. Charleston White, DJ Vlad, Whack 100, and countless other. I agree with that. As social media's done that. But yeah, Sal, so I got you on the unindicted co-conspirators. But my thing is, it doesn't work like that. You have to at least, somebody has to be charged with you. Like, you know what I mean? Even in the criminal complaint, and then they take a cooperation deal or something. And they just didn't do that because, believe me, they interviewed a ton of people. How do I feel personally? Like, what about Diddy? He's a scumbag. He's a weirdo. He's a Fruit Loop. You know what I mean? Just like these other sexual degenerates on these other shows on here. He's a Fruit Loop, yes. But at the end of the day, he wasn't guilty of what he was charged with. So no, I don't think he should go to prison for 15 years. Honestly, I don't even think the 15 months. I think he should be let out. I mean, he beat the case. Let's be real. It was a bullshit case. He's still a scumbag. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Diddy guy, but it is what it is. And this is a good comment, especially the federal system, Sal. You're totally right about this. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all double talk. Just like I told you a minute ago. Really, I'm not a convicted felon. But I guarantee you, if I went and bought a gun, they would try to flip it around somehow or whatever, and I would go to prison, Yeah, he's a scumbag. Yeah, that's the thing. He's a scumbag, but he wasn't. Look, man, look. You guys see it every day, and what I'm going to say is going to cause controversy because a lot of people can't comprehend. Women screw up a lot of shit for other women. And what I mean by that is when a lot of these women, they'll make up fake things. They'll say that they were R-worded. They'll lie. They'll do this. And then the real victims, nobody believes. It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's what's going on. And that's pretty much what happened here. It was a money grab from that girl, Cassie. And basically what they've been doing with these RICO acts, these federal RICO acts they're just basically taking the civil cases and putting them over to criminal cases. Exactly. It's a trap. You're right, Sal. You're totally right. Yeah, dude, you're 100%. That is the sad truth. It's the sad truth. We live in a society today where it's like, I mean, all these, and it's just like the actual women who are victimized, they don't even come forward. It seems like they don't even come forward because they're embarrassed because of all these other women who do this shit. That's why they figure that they're going to look like them. But that's not true. If a woman really is a victim, she should come forward. And whoever's victimizing her should go to prison forever, whatever. But these other hookers, they need to stop that bullshit. They need to stop that. That chick, Cassie, she walked away with over $30 million. And let me tell you something. If next year Diddy calls her to come hang out and have a freak off with the Punisher, she'll be there in a fucking second. She will be there in a second. She had the text message how she loved the sex and she loved this. And, she was on drugs. Oh, I'm on these drugs. You're doing drugs. You like doing drugs. They make you feel good. You love it. That's not Diddy's fault. He should be able to sue them for all the money he wasted to get fucked in here. Nah, he's still a piece of shit. Yeah, you're right about that, Sal. Harvey Weinstein, he's a scumbag. I know that. But he got convicted of R-word in a woman. Listen, he got convicted of R-word in a woman, and he actually proved in court that she was coming back and she was texting him and stuff like, hey, when can we get together again? Blah, blah. And he was like promising them roles in movies. Then when they wind up becoming a hairdresser, then they want to say the R word. It was proven that she was still contacting him. The jury foreman, they asked him, they said, well, how could you find him guilty of R word? And the jury foreman said, because he used his power and money and influence so women would have sex with him. Duh. That's been going on since the beginning of time. Women have sex with powerful men. Women are attracted to that. And especially a guy like a Weinstein. Weinstein's rich. He's ugly, just like good-looking guys. You know what I mean? They don't have trouble getting women. Powerful men don't have trouble. That's what they're attracted to. But now that's how he got. But he was a scumbag too. He did do some messed up stuff also. But Maria, thank you. Thank you for the donation, Maria. I didn't even see you in here. I actually didn't even see you in here. Where's the thing back to my comments? Let me go back over. Oh, there you are. What'd you say, Maria? Listen, it comes down to he is a weirdo, bizarre behind closed doors, but that's not illegal. The women who participate arrange some of the freak offs. Exactly. And they were enjoying it too. They're freaks too. They like the Punisher. What you call love the Punisher. They love the Punisher. She always loved him. Sal, I don't want to read this comment out loud, but I totally agree with what you're saying. I totally agree with that. That could have happened. I was just smarter and didn't have nothing to do with that person. And yes, that type of stuff could happen. That's why when these dumb women jump out here and protect, now you guys are dummies. That's why nobody believes the real victims. Yeah, Weinstein's a sexual. Yeah, he was. But Carlos, I'm not saying that he wasn't. He was, and he's a weirdo and stuff. Like I said, there was other stuff to that. But the actual R conviction, the R word conviction, that was because he had power and money. And I was like, that don't even make sense. Oh, okay, Maria. You didn't get the notification? I hurried up and did this. I put this up probably like 10:45 or something. Did it for 11:15. But yeah, I agree with that, Carlos. That Weinstein was a creep. You know what I mean? He was a big time creep. Here's the difference between him and Diddy. Carlos and Sal. Diddy was throwing parties and everybody was involved in doing all kind of stuff like that. Diddy was a freak off. You knew what you were going to. Weinstein would get these women in a room to talk to them about movie roles, and they're thinking they're going up for that, or he's putting them under the impression they're going to talk about that. Next thing you know, he's grabbing their breast. He's doing creepy shit like that in a room alone, big fat hovering over him. You know what I mean? So yeah, Carlos, you're absolutely right. He was a predator. But on his actual R conviction, it was strange. But he belongs in prison. I agree with that Weinstein guy. He's a scumbag. Yeah, so that's the take on that Weinstein, and like with the Epstein, like we already seen what happened. Yeah, Carlos, you agree with that, right? It's totally different. Diddy is nowhere near on the level of that guy Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, he didn't. I know that, Sal. Yeah, he didn't. He didn't R-word her, and she's admitted it. But that what I was trying to make a point of is that jury foreman and the jury said, no, that means R-word just because you got power and the girl slept with you consensually, but she wouldn't have if you didn't have all that money. It doesn't make sense. So I'm with you on that, Sal. I'm with you on that. But like I said, he is a creepy bastard. He'll get him in the look. He's more of an intimidation type, Would you say, Maria? In your opinion, Diddy's more innocent than Weinstein. Everyone who participated in Diddy's freak-offs do. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it came out in court. Yeah, he's the type. Weinstein and them, they're the type that, like I said, they get a woman alone in a hotel room. Next thing you know, he's breathing all heavy, hovering over top of her, like, spazzing out like a Lee Cole moment. You know how Lee Cole spazzes out when you talk about BBC and all that stuff, and he like doing that. You know, Skeet said Rick James would be proud of Diddy Super Freak. Don't take him to mom. Oh my God. Diddy is a murderer, or we're losing our minds. I mean, he's been involved in some bodies. There's been bodies dropping around him and stuff, but I mean, he's in the streets. Listen, he's not a street guy. He's not like poor, but he was around all kind of gangsters, and he's pretty much a gangster himself. So yeah, there's bodies and stuff around him. I don't know what his actual involvement is. Yeah, Weinstein was a whole different thing. Diddy, it's like this. You've heard all the celebrities talk about going to the Diddy parties. Ain't nothing like a Diddy party and all that kind of stuff. So that was like a thing to do. You know what I mean? And look, a lot of them people in Hollywood are freaks. It's highly weird. You know what I mean? For a reason. Yeah, Maria, they got a 98% conviction rate. And yes, they are the top office. He wasn't guilty. It's that plain and simple. It's just, listen, any good attorney will tell you, most likely, that when you're going to trial, whether you're completely innocent or completely guilty, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I honestly have to credit the jury that they followed the law. I think what the feds were thinking is that when they showed that video of him beating that poor girl up, when he was kicking her ass or whatever, that was a bad video. I think that the feds were thinking that the jury would now just use human element and look at him as the scumbag that he is. And they would do that the whole way through, and then it would lead to the conviction on these trumped up charges. But it didn't. They actually followed the law. By law, he wasn't guilty. And that's just what it is. You said he's a street dog, no doubt about it. Yeah. A lot of people think just because of all the weird sex stuff and all the weird dance and all he does and all, they think that he's like some like sissy or something. Man, listen, that man's been involved in a lot of gang wars, a lot of serious shit in his time. A lot of bodies have dropped. He's actually got the better end of a lot of it, to be honest with you. Even with that West Coast beef and all, they all shooks people. Would you say? Hence, when Mr. X brags about living in Hollywood, freaks. Yeah, it's a bunch of freaks out there. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. But yeah, Maria, that's the thing. When you're going to trial, you got 12 people on the jury. People have differences of opinions. But in this situation, man, he just wasn't guilty. He didn't do what they said that he did. It wasn't a RICO. What was he getting off of it? Busting a nut? Think about it. Every other RICO crimes and stuff like that and drug conspiracies, this involves money. We're making money. You know what I mean? He wasn't setting up nothing to where he would be paid money. And then, like I said, horrible witnesses against him. Some people who were just as guilty, if not more guilty than him. Just a totally horrible situation that they brought that case like that. And you see, they offered him 15 years. Like I told you, listen, I told everybody, the sex trafficking was the only crime that mattered. That's what carried the 15-year mandatory minimum. All the rest of it was just window dressing. And that's what he's convicted of, the window dressing. Yeah, Maria, exactly. They're hoping the jury would go off of emotion and not facts. Yeah, you worded that perfect. I couldn't put that together like that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, everybody hit that like button like Snake said. Your first guy coming out reporting on this and reporting correctly. I've seen the other posts. Oh, Diddy's convicted of sex trafficking. Oh, Diddy. These people don't know nothing. They don't know about the federal sentencing guidelines. They don't know none of this kind of shit. They hear 10 years. They think it's going to be 10 years and 2 counts. They think it'll be 20 years. Now, you're right about this. Diddy's not a dumb guy either. He knows how to read an audience, and your opinion is as powerful. You can sell anything if you read your audience correct. You're absolutely correct. Diddy is, listen, he is the constant. He's a business mogul. I mean, and then when you just bottle it in, like, guys, yeah, he spent a ton of money. Exactly. He didn't make no money. What crime do I think they should have charged him with based on the evidence that would have gotten him more time? I don't think he should have ever been charged with nothing. I mean, honestly, it was swinger parties with some drugs. Now, that's another thing they try to tie into it, drugs and guns. First off, he owns guns legally. Second off, because he's not a convicted felon. Second off, the drug stuff. They were using drugs. They weren't selling drugs and trafficking. It wasn't like that. So no, I don't think he should have ever been charged at all. Honestly. I'll tell you what crime he should have been charged with. Domestic violence when he beat that girl up. That's what he should have been charged with that years ago with the state. And, gotten some time for that. But like, as you see, the domestic violence, they don't give them people no time. And yeah, here's another thing too, Maria. You're correct about Cassie was the person who paid the escorts, set up the appointments. He was smart to have her do this. Actually, Maria, he probably wasn't. Actually, that probably wasn't her job. They were both involved, and she likes certain escorts better. She was texting the one escort how much she liked them and everything. So she was just as involved. How long will it take for sentencing? It all depends. Shouldn't take no longer than 4 months to 6 months. My first time, because evidentiary hearing all, it took 4 months. My second time, I got convicted. I pled guilty and got sentenced on the same day. But I requested that. You know what I mean? Because they knew what my guideline range was. There was no big thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't, no. You see people who get convicted and they don't get sentenced until years later and stuff. That's because they're cooperating. Anytime you see that, somebody gets convicted in the feds, say they get convicted today in July, and next year at this time, they're still not sentenced, they're cooperating. Unless it's like some type of big circumstance, which they really don't have. Right. The alleged victim received $20 million from Diddy. I thought it was $30 million. Would you say, Skeets, the league's cold name come up in Diddy trial? You know he's pervy talking about that shit on Angel before JT showed up on the scene. Yeah, listen, Lee Cole's a sick pervert. Everybody knows that. He's a very sick man. And I'm not talking about the other way. Easy, my dude, Carlos. Be easy. You said it was not the picture the government painted it to be. Once it went to trial, you were waiting for the big one to hit. Just never did. Yeah, me too. I agree with you. I thought some type of superseding indictment, some type of surprise witnesses were coming, something. They didn't bring nothing. It was bullshit. Doogie said that the Punisher said Cassie was well in control as he sat watching. Yes, Diddy sat watching. Exactly. Skeets, what do you say? They had to bring charges once that video was released in a hotel beating Cassie. Like, yeah, you know what, Skeets? You know what? You got a good point there. You got a great point there. But still, for the Southern District of New York, let me tell you something. Somebody might be losing their job. I'm just going to tell you that. He said R. Kelly's all kind of living today. Now, R. Kelly's shit involved juveniles, minors or whatever, and a lot of sick shit with R. Kelly. 2 different cases. You said it turns JT on when Lee Cole talks with such degeneracy. Well, yeah, Lee Cole's definitely degenerate. He loves that talk. You said you think Cassie just wanted the money from the lawsuit and would have called it a day. I do too. The trial embarrassed her as a victim as much as did. You're right about that, Maria. You're right about that. That's where this came from. Her wanting the money. Then when they turned it into a criminal case, because she actually got on the stand and was kind of like not sticking up for him, but saying she still had love for him, and so you're right about that. She did. She just wanted that bread because she was no longer, she's no longer at the freak off. She's no longer getting money just kicked to her. She's married to some guy. She's used to a lifestyle that she couldn't provide for herself. Yeah, yeah, dude. That could have been a kidnapping case or whatever, but that would have had to been done with the state years ago. What'd you say, Nikki? He's still paying for Jane's apartment. What's going to happen to her now, seeing she testified against him? You never know. You never know. Maybe he knew what her testimony was going to be. See, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but when you break it down, man, the guy's a weirdo. He's into that weird sex stuff, you know. But he's not. He's not what they said. It's just not. And they were all partying. Right. Yeah. She's married to the personal trainer now, and it ain't Diddy money. And it's just like this. If Diddy, listen, if Diddy got out and texted her, hey, let's go to Paris for a couple weeks, she's going. She's going. She even said she's still in love with him. I mean, come on. She wasn't a victim. You know what I mean? But it's just, I mean, it is what it is. But all right, guys. So I'm gonna wrap up. I just wanted to hop on today, let you guys know what was going on, and if you guys had any questions or whatever. But everybody, over here in our chat, we all use like something called a brain that we all got. So we're a little bit different over here. So, just to make sure that like all of us got all our stuff straight. And yeah, dude, she's not the victim. The victim in this, honestly, I'm going to be honest. The victim in this situation technically was Diddy, because he got charged with all that shit. But he's a scumbag and a weirdo, and he's still going to be rich. And Frankie the Fixer signing off. Diddy will be having freak offs by Friday. Baby oil stock jumped up $2. Yeah, Maria, that's true. That's true. It's Diddy likes sex. A lot of it's weird. Drugs and rock and roll. Like, there's a lot of wild parties and shit to go on with them people. I don't think he's the worst. All right, guys. You guys hit the like button on your way out. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Thank you guys for coming in.